Hello everyone, welcome to this final fifth webinar in this series. So I'm Ben, and joining me again is Sobia, who,
Hi.
if you were around last week, it was obviously myself and Charlie. It's great to have Sobia back. How are you doing, Sobia? All well?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Obviously, things are changing. So we are talking about engaging every student, but we also appreciate there are more cases in schools. Children are starting to be off a lot more as we get into the final couple of weeks of the term. So we're also going to be touching on some things that can be useful for that situation if you're having to sort of revert back to quite a sort of more significant hybrid learning over the next few days and weeks. So with that in mind, and obviously who knows what the future may bring, hopefully some tips and tricks around that as well as the more general way that you can use Google Workspace tools. All right then, let's get going. Please say hi if you are watching live, so you can say hi in the chat, and we'll also be posting in a link to a Q&A doc shortly, so if you want to jump out to that, there's also a load of useful links in there too. So yeah, we've been looking in this webinar series at Google Workspace for Education, so looking at choice, control, flexibility, and many of you may have already seen me mention this, that there's now quite a significant number of people using Google Workspace for Education worldwide. And part of that choice and flexibility came earlier on in 2021 when the paid options were split out into 3 options. So in addition to the free Google Workspace for Education fundamentals, those 3 paid editions are Google Workspace for Education Standard. So if you want to look at some more advanced proactive security and analytics tools, that gives you the option to upgrade and have those available. If you are looking at enhanced teaching and learning features, there's the teaching and learning upgrade. And if you want all of that and a bit more, then you've got Google Workspace for Education Plus. Tom, always a pleasure. Tom is an absolute genius expert, so feel free to, if you've got any questions, Tom, feel free to jump in there as well. His expertise is superb. Perfect. Okay, so GFE UK. We might have to just adjust that bit.ly link, but we'll put that in a moment. Neat. Okay, so for engaging activities, this is what we're going to be having a look at. Sophie, over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Sobia Iqbal. I'm head of business at a school in London. I'm EdTech lead and I'm a Google certified educator. Just a quick reminder, we do have a question and answer form, which the link is there, and Ben will just quickly update that so that you can ask your questions if you need to. There may be some questions that we can't answer today and we'll pass on to Google instead and get back to you after the webinar. Okay, we're going to be looking at 3 main tools today to help us engage with every student. We're going to look at something called Google Meet Collaboration and Control. There are lots of new access features, and it's good for collaboration if you're going back into online or hybrid teaching, which, as we know, with the pandemic, there is a possibility that we're going to have to go back into that environment. We're also going to be looking at accessible devices for learning with regards to Chromebooks. And finally, we're also going to look at Google Sites to help us reach out to the world, but in a secure way for our students, so that we're making sure that they're safeguarded and that we're providing them with the best possible opportunities, but in a safe way.
Great. So I think at this point, I'll jump over into Classroom and we'll start from there. Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
Cool. There we go. Over to you.
Right, thank you. So if you have a look at my classroom, I'm going to start straight away with Google Meet. As you can see, you've got a link now which comes in a separate box, which we never used to have. We used to have it at the top with the link that would take you straight into Meet. It's now much more easier to manage. So if you click on the 3 dots, you can see that you can either copy the link and send that to your students, or you can click on Manage. And what you could do with that feature now, if I just quickly click on it, you can take off visibility if you wanted to, or you can leave it on. Now, you can also remove the link if you want to remove the link, and you can generate a new one as well. So there are lots of new features with that that you can use, and those added safety features are always on. Students will no longer be allowed to log on before you're able to log on. So that is a new feature that has been added on, and it was a security issue before, and I know because I had that issue when I was teaching as well. Because of the fact that students were logging on before the teacher got there, and that was quite hard to deal with. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into a Meet so that I can show you some new features. And as you can see, it's just a normal Meet. It's just going to take a few minutes to allow me to log on. And once you've joined it, you can see that we've now got some new features. So you can turn the camera and mic on and off like normally. And also you can look at things like the host controls. Okay, so if I quickly go to the host controls, you can see that we've now got lots of new access features that you can turn on and off. So for example, if I wanted to turn off the chat feature, because I don't want my students to type in the chat, because sometimes what happens is when you're actually teaching in this environment, you get a load of messages from students which aren't suitable, or they're not helping the lesson move along. So I can now turn off the chat features if I want to. I could give them the option of whether they want to share their screen or not. And I can also give them the option of whether to turn on their microphone. And for some students, they might not know how to do that. So that's a really good feature to help them with that as well. Now, before I move on, there are different types of control. So you've got one that I want to show you, which is quick access. And this means that everyone can join, even if they're in a different classroom, and I can turn it off and everyone in the organization can also join the Meet. And if I go to any of these host settings, they will be set for the Meet. And it basically allows you to monitor your students in a much more effective way. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Ben to demo what this looks like in a student view so that you can see which features have been enabled and disabled. Can you do that for me, please, Ben?
Absolutely, yeah. So here we've got the student view. So this is the same classroom. We've enabled the Meet link to be visible to the students. So I've got the option here to join. Which is what I'm going to do now. So we're opening up in our new window, and this is the student joining. So I'm just going to allow my camera, because I didn't do that before. And here we go. I can decide to mute my camera before I go in, but let's just go in and join. Okay, so as you were aware, there were some features that were adjusted. So let's just go and have a look at, chatting with everyone. And as you'll see, that tells me that chat isn't available at this time because Sobia, as the teacher, rather than me as a student, has decided to disable that at this point. Also, some of the other options that we can have is, if Sobia wanted to, for example, mute my camera or turn off or mute my microphone, then there we go. My microphone has been muted in that Meet. And you'll notice I don't have the option to manage that. It's greyed out, if you like, for me, but then Sobia can bring me back into the conversation if she wanted to as well. Awesome.
So as a teacher, when I'm teaching, I think these features are fantastic because it does help me to control the lesson in a much more controlled manner, and it's a good safety feature as well, especially when you've got younger students and you're dealing with them. It allows you to monitor them very carefully and make sure that you can support them as best as you can within those lessons. Okay, so that's the host control features that are available. We've also got activities now, and we've had these before, but there are slight changes with these activities. So for example, we've got breakout rooms, which I'm going to show you a bit later on. And we've also got polls. So if I quickly go into the polls to show you what it looks like, you can easily start a poll. And if you've got a question, which here's prepared earlier, you can send a question to make teaching and learning really easy for our students, because don't forget, I've turned the chat off. And because I've turned the chat off, it's really easy for me to ask them questions to check their understanding at certain points, or just to have them engaged within the lesson. So I've got yes or no. I can either save it, and if I save it, I can then edit it. Okay. And if I'm happy with it, I can launch it. So what I'm going to ask Ben to do is now show us the student view so that you can see what the student can see once that's been set up.
Cheers. So one of the other things which is a useful little tip is I've actually decided, I've hovered over my particular one and I've added myself as a tile. So you may have noticed that this was the view you saw from Sobia's point of view. But if I wanted to, I can kind of give us equal weighting in the call by showing as a tile. I've also, actually, Sobia, would you be able to unmute me as a student, if that's okay?
Yeah, if you just give me a moment. And there you go.
Perfect. So what I also done is, as a student, I've turned on the captions, the live captioning. So that's going as we're both talking, which is obviously a nice feature. We're going to be talking about more accessibility features on Chromebooks, but thought it'd be useful to show that as well. Okay, so I can see that my teacher has enabled an activity. I can see that partially because there's a blue dot on the activities button. And if I click on activities, I can also see there's a blue dot next to poll, telling me that there's a new one. And as you noticed, by turning off the chat, it can actually nudge students towards these activities like polls and Q&A more effectively, rather than them answering in lots of different places. So let's go and have a look at the poll. Here was the poll that was posted. Should the education stop remote learning to make them more flexible? Let's go with my student's opinion is yes, and we can vote. And then if I jump back onto the teacher's view, you can see what they can see.
Right, I'm just going to quickly turn off your microphone and then go back to the poll and just show you that this is what my screen now looks like. And I could show everyone the results at the end. And once I'm happy with it, I can also end the poll as well. And students will be able to see that. And it's a great way to have them engaged in the lesson without it's a really great way to engage them in the lessons without having to use the chat feature and also get distracted from a number of questions that are coming in. We've also got a question and answering session, which we kind of use anyway when we come into these webinars, but it's a similar thing. You've got a Q&A where students can ask questions. So if I turn on the Q&A, okay, and now the students should be able to ask a question. So Ben, can you see those questions? Can you enter a question?
Let's have a look. So if I again just jump back into the activities, yeah, I can see that something's changed in Q&A because I've got the little blue dot. If I go to Q&A, I have the option to ask a question. So when is the homework due? Might be one question that might be posted by a student. And the nice bit is this. Other students, if they were quietly thinking, I was thinking that too, can upvote the question. So that gives the teacher an indication of kind of which questions are most relevant. If you do invite any outside speakers in as well, it's a nice way to kind of take the most upvoted question and put it to any kind of external speakers who are joining you. So back to your screen, Sobia, and we can have a look at what that looks like for the teacher.
So if we have a look at my screen, you can see that Ben has upvoted that. So I can see that there's more than one student who wants me to answer that question. I could also sort it by having the newest first, or the most popular one, or the oldest. I can look at which questions have been answered, unanswered. And I can also just tick them off. So I can tick that to say that, yes, that has been answered. And if I wanted to, I could delete them as well.
Just a quick view back in the student account. This is what it looks like when it says it's been answered. So you end up with this little blue tick, which when you hover over, presents answered. So that's how the students can kind of see whether they missed it or whether it's already been answered.
Now, don't forget, one of the benefits of this is that you've disabled the chat. So if you've disabled the chat, it means that students can ask you questions and you can monitor those questions in the background to help with understanding. You can also record your meeting. So if I go to more options, you can record it like you normally can. And students can actually go back and see it in their own time as well. And we've also got a Jamboard feature. So I'm going to go, instead of opening it from there, I'm going to go back to the activities menu and it's called whiteboarding, but it is actually a Jamboard. And you can start a new whiteboard straight away. Now, Ben's going to show you the student view in a minute, but when you start it, it gives you the option whether you want to share it, who you want to share it with, and so forth. And I'm just going to change that to edit so that he can actually add things in there as well. Now, Ben, can you show your student view what happens in the chat when I actually assign that Jamboard?
Yeah, absolutely. So here we're back in the student view and I can't post to the chat still, so the chat still isn't available to me as the student, but I can see here that the teacher's posted a link and therefore I can click on that link, opening up the Jamboard in a new tab. And I'm in the web version. There is an iOS and Android app version of Jamboard, all freely available, and there's a few additional features hidden away in the Android and iOS app too. So now, obviously, alongside our meet, it means that I as a student can contribute, and it might be like sticky note in opinions. So the most significant event of the 21st century is, and we can have a few little goes at that. So let's just post that one. And in that sticky note goes, and I can continue to add sticky notes. And then we can obviously do a little bit of a task of moving them around. So nice way to sort of bring in that collaboration, engage those students via Meet. And it's something, obviously, if we think realistically about what's going on at the moment, it's something that obviously could be used to engage students in classroom and any accessing from beyond the classroom. Obviously, is starting to happen a little bit more.
Yeah, and can I just emphasize that when remote learning took place the first time round, that a lot of teachers on Twitter were using the Jamboard for A-level lessons as well. So it can be used for younger students and it can be used for A-level lessons in a fantastic way. So that is a really, really good feature that we know that we can use with this with Google Workspace.
Cool. I'm just going to just jump into captions as it's open as well, and just remind people with the upgraded paid editions, either Teaching Learning Upgrade or Education Plus, there is now the option for translated captions, and just a reminder about the languages that are available. So for example, if I wanted to have them come up in French, and Sobi, if you just want to give me a couple of sentences.
Hi Ben, hope everything is well with you today.
And there we go. So that comes up in sort of live translation. So 4 languages available. I just wanted to flag that as we had the opportunity. Actually, sorry, after you.
I was just going to say, whilst you're there, Ben, you can also explain the raising hands and lowering the hands, because that's a really good feature that's come in as well now.
Yeah, so again, if you're happy to unmute me or give me the ability to unmute, I'll show the full functionality there as well.
Okay, done.
So, for example, I'm the student, we're still in the student view, I think, and if I were to raise my hand, if I just actually jump back into the teacher view, so you can just show what that looks like from the teacher's point of view when I've raised my hand.
Okay, so I've got a little box here and I'm going to open the queue. And you can see that I can see that student 29 has got their hand raised. If I know that student's got a valid question, because I can see that it's a sensible student, I will ask them to answer. If I know it's somebody who constantly keeps putting their hands up, I can just lower it and make it clear that I'm not looking for questions right now.
Cool. So I'm going to put my hand up, and then I'm also going to take the opportunity, let's say I've been invited to speak, and unmute. And as I start to contribute now, what we should find is that it now tells me, oh, it sounds like you're talking, like you've said something, so your hand will be lowered, but you do have the option to keep it raised if that's not the case. So that's just to avoid that sort of 10 hands going up, even when people have already made their contribution. Cool.
Okay, so Ben, that's been really good from me. I'm going to ask you now to show breakout rooms and how to set up and organize that from a calendar feature, because I think that would be really interesting for people to have a look at.
Yeah, so we'll come back and have a look at breakout rooms in the Meet generated by the classroom. But just before that, we're going to jump out. I did want to flag though, you may have noticed a few moments ago that we put this particular banner up. So Sobia mentioned recording. Recording is a premium paid edition feature, but Google for Education have allowed it to be available for free fundamentals users across the period of the pandemic. So that premium recording promotion period will come to an end at the end of this year, and therefore the recording feature is going to sort of be removed for education fundamentals users. So just to flag that, that promotion period is coming to an end. It was extended several times, obviously, as the pandemic went. So it might be even more sort of relevant that if you are using that recording feature quite a lot, do reach out to the partners we share at the end about getting a trial of the upgrade paid editions if you want to have a look at maintaining that recording and also getting all of the other features that we've talked about as well. Okay, so I'm just going to switch into my teacher view of things. Let's just jump into that. And here we go. Okay, so here's my classroom. One of the features of the Teaching Learning Upgrade and Education Plus is being able to create breakout rooms ahead of time. Now, obviously, you'll know with your own classes that you have groups in mind. You don't always want to just shuffle and make a random set of students to avoid any kind of pairings and groups that don't quite work. So what I've done here in Classroom is I've got a calendar event. Now, you may remember from the previous webinars, we had some students in groups assigned through Classroom that were doing some virtual reality presentations. So what I've done in here in this calendar event, I'm just going to go to edit the event so you can see what that looks like. We've got all of our students invited to this calendar event where we're going to be having groups present. And to enable them to work together and do any preparation, via the settings cog, so a Google Meet has been added, and via the settings cog, if I just go to video call options, if you've got the upgrades, the paid editions, you'll also have, in addition to host controls, breakout rooms. And I have created 8 breakout rooms, and I have gone through and added the students to their relevant groups. And that can be done just by dragging them around. So you can drag the students up and down and around those groups as you see fit. Now, I won't be able to show you the full functionality because you need everybody actually in the Meet to show how it all completely works out. But if I just save that and I join the call here, we'll get a sense of what that looks like. And I'm also going to join with the student as well, just so we get a decent view of that one, just to make sure I don't completely hog my whole internet connection. I'll just mute my camera for a moment. Let's join now. Okay, so I'm in as the host. Let's just join as the student. So I'm just gonna go out of here, jump into calendar, and we should be able to find that invite. Okay. I think Sobi is also going to join us in there as well, so we can see kind of what that looks like. Virtual reality group task, there it is in the student's calendar, and we can also join. Got it. Thank you for the hint. Right. Again, I'll just mute my camera so it's not too intrusive. You don't want to see me that many times. All right. So let's jump into the teacher view, and via the activities icon, we're going to go and have a look at breakout rooms. And because I set them up in calendar beforehand, there we go. Always at that first moment, you think it hasn't done it, and it says set up breakout rooms, and you're like, oh, has all my work been wasted? But it's not true. As soon as you click on set up breakout rooms, you've got yourself as the teacher in the main call, and then you'll see it's ready with all the students. And at the time when you're ready, you can then go ahead and open up the rooms. The access controls that you set up for the main call will be replicated in the breakout rooms. But one question we often get is, can you record breakout rooms? And the answer is no. Recording can happen for the main call, but it is not something that you can do in the breakout rooms. So there we go. So at the moment, student 29 is still here. So let's see why that is. And that's because the setting is like, oh, I want to join my breakout room. Now, unfortunately for student 29, the rest of their group is not around. So it's going to be a bit of a lonely breakout room for them. There's this nice feature here where you can ask for help. So you can kind of reach back out. And if I click ask for help, you'll see that back in the main call, it's telling me, you might have seen that there's a little note here saying, group 1 just asked for help. So as the teacher, I can join any of those different groups, jump in and just say, how can I help? And you can navigate around that way. One thing I find really useful at breakout rooms is if you create a Jamboard before that everyone can access, give each group a frame on the Jamboard. It's a great way as a teacher to keep an eye over the activity in the different groups. So you might notice that there's no activity on one particular frame in Jamboard. That might indicate to you it's worth jumping into one of the groups to have a look how it's going. So I can leave that group once they're sorted and jump back in, and then I can close down the breakout rooms as well. So a quick overview of that breakout rooms option. And what I'll do now is I'm just going to close all the rooms and bring everyone back together. And it will give everyone a 30-second warning. But if you want to, you can just click on close rooms again, and you can bring everyone automatically back. So it's up to you as to whether you want to give them that 30-second time to close off their conversations or not. And there we go. So a little bit of a breakout rooms pre-created through Google Calendar, and then obviously this meet here.
Really straightforward, Ben. I really like that because it means that you can set up and prepare before you go in, which is a useful feature when you've got the groups that you're teaching.
Actually, we just ended that call. Sobi, if we're okay to, I know you've got the meet that you created through Classroom still open, which we're showing now. And I can see that you've been creating a couple of breakout rooms in there. If you're happy to go to set up breakout rooms on your meet there, that's how you can do it in terms of the teacher view. So you can decide on the number of rooms. And if you haven't quite got the time in the call to drag people to the rooms that you want, you can use the shuffle option to kind of move people around. Okay. One final thing I wanted to show in Meet just before we move on is if I go back into the student view and you'll notice that I'm still in that call as the student. So if you can end the call, so let's say our learning journey is finished in this particular call.
Bye.
So you've got the option to leave or end the call for all. Just to show what that does, if I just jump back into my student view, immediately it says your host have ended the meeting for everyone. And let's just have a look at what happens if I as the student go, but no, I want to go back in. So I'm going to go to the classroom, click on the join link, and let's have a go at joining as a student. And you'll see that message there. So I can't get back in. I need to wait for my teachers from the classroom to go back in and start that off. And once they do, I'll be able to get back in. But you see, I can't get back into that call.
Yeah.
So just a nice security feature to finish that piece off.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Ben.
Cool. So we're going to look at some accessibility features in a moment. Let's do a quick recap. In terms of Meet, there was a user interface refresh, which you've seen and you'll see across your own Meets now. That was something that was rolled out to everyone. Multiple moderators is coming soon. So that's the ability to add more than one moderator in a call. You can allocate your teaching assistant, your co-teacher in the call to have the same moderator controls as you. It's not just dependent on who got in there first. Again, that's a free feature that's going to be available across Education Fundamentals. You saw the hand raising improvements. Something that is coming soon, which is going to be a great feature, particularly like if you are working with children with deafness, is the ability to pin more than one person. So for example, the teacher and a sign interpreter, or the teacher alongside their slides. If you need to sort of get see both of those things, or if there are two teachers presenting together, you can pin them both. So again, freely available. If you've got any questions about any of that, jump into the Q&A doc. You saw also the security features to lock different aspects, including coming soon the ability to lock video. And as you saw, I set up the breakout rooms, which is a teaching and learning upgrade or an education plus upgrade, to do those ahead of time breakout rooms in Calendar. I also mentioned if you've got breakout rooms, then the safety features in the main call will be matched in the breakout rooms in terms of like disabling the chat, turning off videos, that kind of thing. And if you are managing this from the back end in the admin console, for Education Fundamentals, you've got controls. You can control which meetings users in your domain can join. So you can decide how and where they can join meetings. There's also the ability to have by default whether quick access is on or off. So you might have quick access on for teachers, but off for students. Or in the same way, you might by default have chat off for students until teachers decide to turn it on in certain circumstances. Finally, you can end, in Education Standard or Plus, there is a feature where you can end a meeting. So if you find a meeting that's ongoing using the investigation tool, you can close that meeting down from the admin console. So that's an additional security feature available there. Okay, it's time to talk about some accessibility features on Chromebooks. So ready for that, I've got, here we go, got my Chromebook with me, so you can see this one here. This one here is one of the sort of fully flip touchscreen ones, which is quite a nice teacher device, as well as being kind of useful for the students too. So that's what I'm going to be using. And if we jump in and have a look at that, let's go in, here we go, student view, and we've got classroom. So to access the accessibility features, down right in the bottom right-hand corner, you've got your clock, battery, Wi-Fi connection. And if you just click on the time, for example, you get this menu feature appear on your Chromebook. And one of the things you can have there is accessibility features. If that's not there, you can add it yourself via the settings cog here, and just go to the settings and put in a search for access. We'll normally do it. There we go, accessibility. And you can turn this switch on. It is also possible on managed devices using the education upgrade to push out the accessibility features automatically for devices and users that you have in your school. Okay, so let's have a look at some of those features. So into our menu, accessibility, and let's start with
Ben, just one moment. Is there any
Yeah.
possibility to increase the size of your screen?
Certainly is, because I've got full screen magnification on.
Thank you.
There we go. We didn't plan that, but that was good. I like that.
Thanks.
So, in terms of additional audio support, for those with any visual impairments, you've got Chromebook. So Chromebook will read everything that's on the screen. The way to make that slightly more manual is to use this option, select to speak. So you'll see that I've enabled that. We've got a blue tick on the right hand side. And then down the bottom, it wasn't there before, but down the bottom now, we'll have, let me just scroll down. This icon here is the select to speak icon. What that enables us to do, if I just zoom ourselves back out again, is say, for example, I am a student in this classroom. Let's go to the physics test, and I just want to sort of view and get some information read out to me. So let's just close that down. So I could either click on the select to speak, and I could drag over a section of text like that.
Physics test. Ben Rouse. November 24th. 15 points. Answer the questions in the form.
Really like that.
Yeah, really useful feature. And again, there may be people with specific needs to where this is really beneficial. It's just beneficial for a lot of people. Designing for people with accessibility needs is a great way to design good user experiences for everyone. So you can pause it, you can change the speed, so you can slow it down or speed it up. And you can skip across
physics test.
Another way to enable that on the Chromebook is to hold down the search key. So many of you might have discovered that Chromebooks don't have a caps lock. There is a way to do it. And in their place is a search key. And if I hold down the search key and then I drag over, it does exactly the same thing if you've got select to speak enabled. I think I got my let go of things.
Physics test.
There we go.
Ben Rouse. 15 points.
Cool. So there's one accessibility feature, which is the select to speak. The other one that's really useful generally, as well as for specific needs, is the dictation. So if I turn dictation on, and actually what I'll do is I'll switch to the teacher view. Say, for example, we wanted to go in and we wanted to type in an announcement. Any text box that exists anywhere on your screen, you can go down to the bottom here. Let me just try and zoom in on that one. So you can see that now I've got an extra icon, which is that little microphone type one. And if hopefully this will work seamlessly, but let's give it a go. If I click on the dictation tool. Hey everyone, we're coming up to the last week of term, so please remember to bring in your board games next week on Monday, full stop. So, yes, great feature for those students who express themselves very well verbally, but don't always get it accurately written down. Exclamation point. Disappointing. Let me just turn the dictation off. But also, if you're a teacher that's coming up to write reports, great way to write your report really quickly and effectively as well. So that dictation option, also a great feature to use in the comments if you're using comments to feedback on students' work. It's a great way to use it as well. Okay, couple of other things under accessibility. Full screen magnifier, I've had it turned on the whole time. What that enables me to do is, you may have noticed that I have been zooming in and out. That's just a touchpad feature. But what I find really useful for demonstrating is when I have full screen magnifier turned on, I can also use the touch screen to zoom in on these sort of parts of my screen. So I can show you the extensions that we're using. For example, here, great accessibility feature is read and write. So that extension there and things like that. So that's something with a full screen magnifier that can be really useful for navigating and instruction for as a teacher, showing things like that. There's a docked magnifier option. So that allows you to have the full screen available below, and you'll see a magnified version of where your cursor is at the top. So you can see things more clearly as you go through. So that's the docked magnifier. And then for students with any kind of mobility challenges, you've got automatic clicks. Let me just try and, oh, it doesn't want to let, oh, I've turned full screen magnifier off, that's why. So automatic clicks means that rather than having to have the dexterity to click at where you want, it will automatically, you'll get this little spinner go round. And as you move around, you'll see it's automatically clicked on dock magnifier, automatically clicks when you pause. So when I stop, it will automatically start going round, and I've just turned it off there. So let me just make sure that is off. Oh, yes. Okay. So lots to explore there, making sure that your students know that those exist to make their experience of using their Chromebook the best it can possibly be, so they can show their best work. Let me just switch. Oh, pardon me. They should know it better than I do. And then you'd expect all the other stuff as well, like mono audio, if there's hearing issues in one ear compared to the other. You've got the option for a large mouse cursor. You can highlight the text caret. You'll see I've automatically highlighted my mouse cursor. And you've also got things like sticky keys and high contrast mode in there as well. So a few accessibility features to be aware of. And obviously you also saw captions in Meet. Captions also available in Google Slides as well.
There's also screen capture and do not disturb as well, isn't there?
Yeah, so let's have a quick look at those ones. So screen capture, there's now an inbuilt feature where you can capture the screen. So I can capture an area and take a picture of that, or I can, using screen capture, I can create a video and I could do the whole screen, for example. So if you are having students off at the moment and you've got a Chromebook available to you, then you can record your entire screen, and that will enable you to have videos of your instruction available for students nice and easily. And as Sabia mentioned, great little tip actually that I picked up from Ian, one of our colleagues on these webinars. If you go to notifications, you can specifically turn off notifications from different tools. So it's a great one for students to be aware of, so they can maintain that focus, stay engaged by not getting pinged and distracted by lots of different tools. And a nice one for when you're teaching as well. If you're teaching from the Chromebook on a teacher device, to not have lots of different things interrupting you. So you can put on a do not disturb like I have, and that will avoid lots of notifications coming up and interrupting your teaching. Cool. So there's a little bit of that. And now I'm going to pass back to Sabia for our sort of final section of demo, which is going to be around Google Sites. So, you ready?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm ready.
Cool. I'll switch back over to your screen now.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. That was really interesting to see all the different features there. I'm going to go on to Google Sites, and I'm going to go on to the waffle at the top because we've all used Google Drive. We all know how to use it properly. I'm going to click onto Sites, and it's going to take me into the menu straight away. Now, when you open up Sites, this is a really good tool, and I've actually used it to create a virtual staff room, which was working really effectively in my school. But you can also use it with students, and you've got loads of templates there. You can use whatever template that you want based on whatever you're trying to set up. For today, I'm going to set up a blank template because I want to start from scratch, and I want to show you some new features. So Google Sites updates, one of the things that has come in new, you weren't able to adapt the themes before. You had a set standard of themes. And once it's uploaded, if you just give it one moment. So there we go. These themes that you had, they were inbuilt. And because they were inbuilt, you could only choose whatever was there already. Okay, so those were the ones that I used to have. Now, the good thing is that recently we can now create our own themes. And I'm really happy with this because it means that I can create my own theme. And I'm going to create a podcast because I want my students to do a project based on podcasting. From here, you can see that I can add a logo. And I can upload it or I can select. So I'm just going to quickly upload it and see where I can find it from. If I just go to selecting, it's going to be easier. So if I go to select, this means that I can already access stuff that's already in my G drive. It makes it slightly easier than having to find something from your computer files. And I'm going to choose my logo, which I've already got because I've actually already got my own station. So I'm going to insert that as my logo. So you can see that my logo is in there already. I'm also going to look for a banner image, and I'm also going to go to select because I've already uploaded it in my G drive, so it's already in my files. And hopefully you'll be able to see that I've also got a banner which is already working correctly. So I'm happy with that. I've labeled and named my podcast and theme, and I've got a logo and a banner image. If I click on next, I can customize and choose the colors I want. I'm going to stick with the green format for now. And you can also change the text of the titles and headings as well. So for example, I'm not going to choose Comic Sans because I know a lot of people don't like that. So I'm going to just quickly choose something as an example, and then I'm going to create the theme. Now, once I've created my theme, it will come up on the web page automatically. So there you go. You can see my theme has come up the way I want it to. It says my name of my podcast. If I wanted to add text there, I could add text there. I've already got my logo. If I wanted to search stuff from the internet, I could also go back and change that by searching and looking for things on the internet as well. I'm now going to go to pages because I want to set up a new page, and you can select from here a new menu or a new page. So I'm going to start off with the first page, and I'm just going to call it Podbean for now. And I'm also going to set up a menu because I want a menu in there as well. And I'm just going to call it Pod and click on Done. Now I want my menu to have a drop down page. So I'm going to move that page into the menu. So you can see that that automatically now goes into the page that I want it to load. So that's one way of adding pages and menus. And what I want to do is I'm now going to think about how can I get my students to listen to some of the audio that I've got for them. So the way that you can do that is if you go to insert, there's loads of different content, loads of different items that you can use to insert. So you can insert forms, sheets, slides, docs, whatever you want them to see. What I'm going to do is insert a button, and I'm going to name the button. I'm going to call it Pod Phobia so that it's clear what that is. And then I'm going to actually go into my G drive to find the link of where that audio file is. Now, luckily, here's one I made earlier. I'm going to select that audio file and I'm going to get the link from there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the link. And once I'm happy with that, I'm going to go back to the site and I'm going to paste it into that area and I'm going to insert it. So now you can see that my web page has got a logo, it's got a banner, it's displayed the way that I want it to be displayed, and it's got a button. I'm now going to publish it to show you what it looks like. And you could just give it a name that you're happy with. And I'm just going to write Podbean with it as well so that it recognizes it. And then once I've published it, you will be able to see your file exactly like it is. So I'm going to quickly view the published site so that you can see that the site has been published exactly the same way that I've set it up. And if I click on that, the audio file will play as well. Now, the good thing about this is, and there's the audio file that's coming up now. The good thing about setting this web page up or a site like this is that it makes it easy for you to use with your students only. So it means that only people in your organization, whether it's staff, whether it's students, it means that nobody else outside the organization can access it. So you're meeting the GDPR rules, which is a great thing. And if I play my sound file, you can hear the sound file playing as well. Okay, so if you wanted to, I'm just going to quickly open up a file and go to a new incognito window. And hopefully you should be able to see that. If you just give me one moment to close down that screen. And if we go to File, New Incognito Window.
I suspect your new incognito window may not show.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. Okay, well, I can explain it to you. You don't need to see it. But basically, if you open up a new screen and go into an incognito window, if you copy the exact same site link, it basically will not allow you to access that site until you've logged into your Google site, which is a good thing, which means that nobody apart from people in the organization can access it. It's a really good, fun feature for students, very student friendly, very easy for staff who don't have as good technical skills and kind of want to ease into it, for making their own podcasts, websites, and things like that. So I'm really happy with that. That is what I want to show my students. I think it's fantastic, and you can do all sorts of things with Google Sites because, like I said earlier, I set up a virtual staff room, and it is a really good tool. So definitely worth investing in and having a look at.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that as well. And yeah, I know Google Sites is used in a variety of different ways. As you said, you've got a teacher sort of portal. The students in my own school created a lot of revision sites for each other, and there was also student portfolios. It's something that we've seen used for sites. And obviously at the moment, as you're trying to disseminate information, Google Classroom is obviously a great place to put information. Google Sites can also be used to make sure that that information is available to the students, but also potentially to parents as well. So a few different options there. Okay. So, as we start to wrap up, we were talking about engaging students. Something that might be useful from managing and overseeing engagement is the ability through Education Standard and Plus to export activity logs. So BigQuery allows you to analyze lots of data, but you can bring that in through something called Data Studio. And I'll just quickly switch and show you what exactly that looks like. So you can pull all the information out of Google Classroom and you can get it displaying on a dashboard like this. So for example, you can see the levels of engagement from teachers and students. Has that been rising? Has that been falling? As we go into more sort of students isolating, will that change? You can also, if I just zoom back out again, you can look specifically at teacher use, student use, and you can also kind of see which classes are most engaged. So all of this is a template ready to go, and we'll just pull your data in. So that's a feature available if you want to get more insights from particularly a school leadership, middle leader point of view. Then that feature is available through Education Standard and Plus. And if you want to try any of those out, we will be sharing contact details of partners that can get you set up with a free 60-day 50 license trial of any of the paid editions. So that kind of concludes what we're looking at today, though I do know we've got one question from Tom, which is in the Q&A doc, which was just about, can co-teachers create or edit a Meet link in Classroom? So best way to show this, basically for me to figure out the answer to it, is I'm first of all going to go to our Classroom, Sobia, and if you can go to the Classroom as well in a second. So in this particular Classroom, I created it, and I've added Sobia as a co-teacher. So if we go to like this stream overview, I have the option here to copy that link. I also have the option to manage that Meet link. I can copy it, reset it, remove it, and I can make it visible to students or not. If we now switch to Sobia's co-teacher view, Sobia, do you have all the same options that I did?
Yeah, so if I go to copy link, I can copy the link from my view. Do you want to just put up my screen bit? Oh, yep, thank you. And then manage. If you look here, you can make it visible to students if you want. So you can copy, reset, and remove if you would like to as well. If you want to take the visibility off, you can take the visibility off as well.
Perfect. So I'll just put in the Q&A doc that was answered around kind of 56 minutes and sort of, there we go. So people can have a look in the video and check that out. Awesome. Thank you for the great question. And it's nice always be able to show as well. So on that one, where we've answered a question, feel free to jump into the link that's just been posted and let us know any feedback. Pardon me 1 second. And also in the Q&A document, you'll find that feedback form, but also in the Q&A document, you'll find links to all the webinar slides for the last 5 webinars. You'll find links to connect with different groups and information, find out more about the editions. So that concludes our 5 webinar series, I should say, where we wanted to show you a little bit about Google Workspace for Education and the free and paid editions and what options you've got. So these are previous webinars. If you haven't seen them all, feel free to go to bit.ly/workspace series and you can get all of the different webinars. You can review them, bookmark them and share the YouTube on demand with any of your colleagues who you think it'd be useful for. And our big thing for you next is what next? So obviously we'd love for you to sign up for a free trial and we'll look at information about that in a moment. There's a absolutely brand new set of videos that you can access. These literally launched yesterday, so you can be one of the first people to view them. And if you go to goo.gul/workspace-edu-demos, some of the more technical bits that come under Education Standard and Plus, things like data regions, the investigation tool, how to manage phishing and malware attacks, is all summarized in easy to access, no jargon, sort of 3 to 5 minute videos. So via that link, you can check those out. As I said, rewatch these videos. So the last one, Safer Learning, went into more detail on those technical bits. And if you want to get back into some of the resources, if you just bookmark the Q&A doc using that link there, and we'll make sure that you can see whatever you need to. Most importantly, though, please have a restful holiday. Teachers have been working incredibly hard, beyond flat out for so long. Sobia is very much in the throes of that right now.
Yeah, I was just saying, Ben, I can't believe 5 webinars have flown by so quickly and so much information has gone out. I mean, I've learned so much as well, and there's loads of things I'm going to take back to my school. So if you did miss the previous sessions, please go back and watch them because there's a lot of good information in them that you can apply.
Yeah, there's also a load of great updates coming out soon, so keep an eye on those sort of channels. But most importantly, if you want to reach out for a trial, you can get started today or you can set it up to start on your return in January. And any of these partners will be more than happy to set you up with a free 60-day, 50 license, no obligation trial. You're not putting any payment details in, you're not committing to anything, but you can get set up on your Google Workspace domain with some of the features that you've seen, well, all of the features that you've seen over these 5 webinars. So a massive thank you. Really appreciate everyone's time and engagement. I'll also put up the link again for those new videos explaining the paid edition features, particularly around security. And we will wish you an absolutely fabulous holiday break when you get there. And thank you all for your time. We really appreciate you joining across these webinars. And obviously, if you want to share that with any of your colleagues, you're more than welcome to. So many thanks. Thanks so much, Sobiek. Really appreciate your company. It's been absolutely a delight to work with you.
It's been fun. Thanks, Ben.
Cheers very much. Bye. Bye, everyone.